the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cowboys. Locked On Cowboys.
All right, let's talk about another safety. This one who opted out of the 2020 season. That's Jayvon Holland from Oregon, somebody who is very, very intriguing. Tested as a much better athlete than I think anybody anticipated. John, we'll start with you again. What did you think about Holland on film?
Man, it was really interesting. Going in, I didn't really know what to expect just based on everything I've read and what I heard. Yesterday, I went through 7 games of his. I went through 3 in 2018, 4 in 2019. And I was honestly pretty impressed with him. I think in 2018, he played a lot more free safety. You saw him get a lot of run, especially in the Stanford, Washington State, and Washington games. He played a lot of free safety. And I think you saw him show that he can function in that role in the NFL. You see the good instincts. He takes away the post. He takes away the seam. I don't think he's the rangiest free safety in the world, but between those hashes, I think he gets the job done. He's really smart. He's not afraid to fill against the run. He's not afraid to tackle, all of those things. I think that really gave me a lot of confidence that if he was picked by a team like the Cowboys, he could function in a single high role. And then when you move on to the 2019 tape, you see him play a lot more in the slot, more around the box, that kind of nickel safety role he was playing in that Oregon defense. And I was just super, super impressed by his ability to anticipate routes. He's not the most explosive guy. You'll see guys separate from him when he kind of has to make flat foot reads and they break in front of him. He doesn't really close that gap really very quickly when they're coming out of their breaks. But better than any other probably defensive back I've seen in this class outside of like a Patrick Surtain, the really high-end cornerbacks, is he anticipates routes. He's already anticipating that break, and that allows him to really stay connected to these intermediate routes against slot receivers and tight ends. I think he has the ability to match up with tight ends, running backs. I think if he's in the box, he's a very, very adept intermediate zone dropper. I think he could be a hook defender. I think he could play in the buzz. I think he could play vertical third. I think he could do a lot of things, and his versatility, I think, in a Dan Quinn defense would give them a lot of flexibility to be able to change up their looks while playing the same defense. I think that is the key for a Dan Quinn, this cover 3 Carroll style defense is if you're going to be playing a similar coverage, that cover 3 a lot, you got to be able to move the chess pieces around the board a lot so that the offense, even though you're running the same coverage, it looks like you're running something different. And I think a guy like Jayvon Holland with his versatility really unlocks that potential for a Cowboys defense. I was really impressed by him.
Landon?
I'm not as impressed. I definitely think that, I saw the same things, a lot of the same things that John saw. I mean, there was a focus at free safety in 2018, and the Stanford tape is one that I watched as well for him there. And I think, to me, I watch him and I have concerns that his game doesn't match his body type. Right. Like I think he is more of I think he could probably play free safety, but I'm not comfortable putting him there immediately, I think, and having him start right away. I think you could see him there in instances and have him play in that role a little bit. But to me, I would feel much more comfortable playing him in an overhang role, in a box role. I mean, look, we constantly but just point out that JOK played more snaps at nickel corner or at slot than he did at linebacker. Sure. And Holland's kind of the same thing, except at safety. Holland played way more snaps as a slot corner than he did as a safety, and I don't think he can play slot corner in the NFL. So it's, to me, my concern with Holland is that it's a lot of projection. You're projecting him to play. You've seen him play a single safety high, and I think he was good, not great at it. But the tape that is making your eyes get big about this kid, it's not in that single high safety role. It's more as an overhang defender and more as a box defender. I think he's great. John mentioned this. I think he's great at covering tight ends. I think he has the potential to be a tight end eraser type. I think he kind of can struggle at times with some of those quicker wide receivers because he moves, if he was a running back, I would describe his movement style as like a slasher as opposed to a bursty guy, and I think that kind of can limit some of the stuff on the back end, kind of in the way that I mentioned with Richie Grant having a quick processor and quick change of direction. I don't know that Holland. I think Holland has the processor, but I don't know that he has that change of direction. So I would prefer to kind of keep him in the box a little bit and play that role. But then again, what really complicates this is that he had a great pro day. His pro day is he's at 6 foot 207. He doesn't look 207 on tape. He ran a 4.46 in the 40. He doesn't look like he plays at 4.46. So I have concerns that I think he has gotten to be a better athlete over the last year without not playing football. I think clearly he's kept up and been training really hard for the draft. But I just have a lot of concerns because to me, that the times in this pro day don't match necessarily what I see on tape. And I'm worried that his skill set, the things that he does well, doesn't quite match his body type, that he may be kind of undersized a little bit to play in a full-time kind of overhang box defending safety role.
To me, this reminds me a little bit of a player that we talked about a lot last year, and Xavier McKinney coming out of Alabama, right? Who played a lot in that same, near the line of scrimmage, sometimes was, covering slot receivers. But we had questions if McKinney was a free safety. I think I feel better about Holland than I do somebody like McKinney being able to do that, because when we saw him play in the Pac-12, he was 18 and 19 years old. Again, he was incredibly young. He was very productive. I believe he has the most interceptions in Oregon history outside of Jarius Byrd. So you're banking on him being a pretty inexperienced player and having the instincts and being, having all that athleticism that didn't necessarily show up on tape. So I think the ascending player, but without a doubt, there's projection here. I could easily see him 2 years from now being a high-end safety. But I think there's a chance that he is somebody who, is a little bit of a tweener, and he goes to a team that really can't find him a role, and he bounces around the league. That wouldn't surprise me either. So, John, let's come back to you. Where do you kind of slot Holland in this draft? Is he somebody that you like in the second round? Is he more of a third-round guy? Where do you have him?
I gave him a solid 2, and I'm really a solid second-round grade. And I think that I'm really betting on the fact that he's a high IQ player who has good size, obvious, good tested athleticism, better tested athleticism than I think play speed that we saw on tape. And his ball skills. I think that's one thing that we haven't touched on yet is his ball skills. He plays the ball really well in the air. He was a high school receiver. You could see it with the way that he's one of the only safeties or one of the only really defensive backs in this class that I've seen really be able to attack the flash of the ball. So say they get their eyes turned to the QB late, he's able to locate the ball and still get a hand on it. A lot of other safeties, when they turn their head around late, they lose the ball. They can't find it. He has that ability because I'm guessing from his years playing receiver where you have to get your eyes back and catch the flash of the ball just like that. That skill translates to the defensive side of the ball. And when you have all that mixture of a high IQ guy who showed that he has tested athleticism, guy who has ball skills, I'm going to bet on that. And I think even if he's not going to function the best as a single high safety for like the Cowboys or something, I think he'll find a place where he'll be successful. I just think he's too smart. You see, one really good thing I see is anytime you see an opposing team going in a bunch or a stack alignment, count the number of times where you see him even question what receiver he's going to have. He always relates to the proper receiver. You don't see him get confused by these crazy route combinations that you can get from these spread teams when they're a bunch and stacked alignments, when they condense these sets. He's so smart that I just think he's going to be able to figure out. And the fact that, like Marcus said, he was 18 or 19 in doing that. Yeah. What about when he's going to be 23, 24, 25, 26 in the NFL? I think he's just going to be one of those guys that sees things quicker, sees things better, processes things better than a lot of different people. And I think that's going to allow him to be successful, even if we don't know the exact position that he's going to be successful in the NFL.
Landon?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a second rounder too. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that
you killed him, and now you're calling him a second rounder.
No, I'm killing him because I'm playing the opposite side of John. But I'll tell you, I mean, all the things that John mentioned are right. I mean, I don't disagree with the fact he's a ball hawk. I mean, if you go watch his 2018, he's a freshman and he's directing traffic on these guys. And Oregon defensive backs are legit, and he's guiding them, lining them up, making sure they're lined up. So clearly he has the abilities. I think if anything, my only concern is that I don't think he will play a lot of the same role that he played in college. I think there is a projection to the NFL, but I think all the things that John said is right. He has all the makeup of everything that you want for a safety. I just have concerns, if missing last year, the testing not matching the tape. What does he look like as an athlete now? Is he a completely different player? Those are all questions I have in my head that are really the only thing that are limiting him from being kind of a solid first-round pick, because he has that upside. He definitely has the upside that if he can get it all together with his smarts, and he has this kind of athleticism that he tested with, he definitely has the upside to be the best safety in this class if everything comes together for him.
Yeah. One thing, Marcus, before you jump in, I went to a Glazier clinic at the beginning of 2019 in Las Vegas, and the UNLV coaching staff was there, and their cornerback coach was there, and their cornerback coach was a assistant cornerback coach for the Oregon Ducks in 2018. And back then, he was even talking about Jevon Holland, about how you guys watch out for this number 8. He's going to be someone you guys are going to hear about in the NFL in the coming years. And it's just funny how that showed. He was talking about he's smart, he has good technique, he's young, but he plays like he's a senior. I remember that was the main quote he said. This guy's a freshman, but he's playing like a senior for us, and you guys are going to hear about him. And I was just like, oh, okay, interesting. You hear about a lot of these little school coaches will, name drop a player that they like, and they don't usually pan out. But Jevon Holland obviously is panned out, and the fact that his coach back then could see the skill set in him, that gives me even more confidence that he's going to figure things out when he gets older and more experienced.
Locked on Cowboys. Locked on